Welcome to How It Works. On today's episode, a demonstration of Querious, a product that transforms your virtual client meetings with real-time legal insights and automated follow-ups. Joining me to tell us all about it and show us how it works is the founder of Querious, Hilary Bowman. Hilary, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for having me.
We're going to get into a demonstration of it, but before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about what this is?
Sure. So, Querious is a tool that enhances attorney client conversations with generative AI. So, Querious is really the first conversational intelligence tool designed for attorneys. In your virtual meeting, Querious prompts attorneys to consider legal issues, questions, relevant legal content, which ensures that attorneys identify all the critical details of the conversation as well as identify business opportunities. After the meeting, Querious produces an automatically drafted summary email, a detailed set of notes, and a billing entry, which unlocks time for attorneys to spend on more high value work. The best part is it's really easy to adopt. There's really no special training or lengthy implementation required. You can actually go to our landing page, create an account, and start using it in a matter of minutes. So the goal here with this tool is to maximize advice and minimize the administrative work of legal practice.
Worth noting here is that you are an attorney yourself and were inspired to create this out of your own experience dealing with clients and speaking with clients.
That's right.
So we're going to jump into how it works, but viewers, just a heads up that we pre-recorded parts of this because, and you'll see that why we did that, kind of the nature of the product makes it easier for us to have pre-recorded parts of this. So we're going to be playing some pre-recorded video here and talking about it as we do. So Hilary, you want to jump into it then?
Absolutely, yes. So the first area that I will highlight of the product is what it looks like for Querious to join your virtual meeting. So I'll start with that first. All right. So just as a reminder, we recorded some of this video footage a few days ago. Given the nature of the product that it attends your virtual meeting, it's difficult to demo a tool that joins your meeting as well as talk about it at the same time. So here's our recording from our conversation. Our hypothetical conversation involved Bob being a client of mine, and we'll get into more details about that in a second. But what I want to highlight here is that Querious joins your virtual meeting as a bot. So you can see that there's a tile in the meeting that has the name of the company, and it also has a quick overview of what the tool is. So as you can see here, it says it's analyzing audio. We don't create an audio recording or transcript of the entire conversation. So this is important from a transparency standpoint. We want everyone in the meeting to be aware that this tool is being used in the attorney-client conversation. Another item to quickly highlight is that there's an icon moving up here which shows that the product's working, that it's analyzing audio. And then you see the sidebar here, which will produce issues and question prompts for the attorney to use during the conversation.
And apologies that I had my Fireflies note taker in there at this also taking up screen space.
So the next feature that I'll highlight is the issue prompts. So Querious produces flags about potential legal issues to the attorney in the conversation. So these are flags that are only visible to the attorney. We want the attorney to stay in control of the conversation and only mention the prompts when they think it's valuable to the client. So in our hypothetical situation, Bob was reaching out to me. He was a client that was thinking about how to start a charter fishing business, and he's in New England and he wanted to purchase a boat in Canada. So you can actually see in the sidebar here that the first issue that was flagged was about importing the boat between countries. So that was the first issue that was raised. The second issue, so Bob also mentioned that in putting his team together, his crew together for the boat, that he would have an unpaid intern as part of his team. And so we talked about that briefly. He gave me some facts about the tasks and the roles and responsibilities of that intern. And so you'll see in a moment here that the product also flagged employment considerations about having an unpaid intern. So what's the value of having these legal issues flagged in the moment? When you capture all of the critical details in a conversation, it really leads to better outcomes for your clients. And of course, happy clients are loyal clients. It also, if you're in a firm and you're practicing, having these potential legal issues flagged really gives you ideas for new opportunities to work with that client.
Could I just add, probably obvious to people watching this, but in the hypothetical, of course, we had kind of prepped what we are going to talk about. The Querious did not know what we are going to talk about. You hadn't previously loaded any information into that. This was in real time as we're talking about these issues.
That's right. Thanks for highlighting that. One of the key design principles for our product is that we don't want the attorney to be a prompt engineer. We want the attorney to simply go about their day, have their conversations with their clients, and only look at the prompts when they need to or when they're valuable in the conversation. We don't want the attorney directing their attention away from the conversation in order to put prompts into the product. The next feature that I'll highlight in the virtual meeting is the question prompt. So, okay, we've identified the key facts, but let's dig in a little bit more and pull out the critical details. So, in the sidebar, during our hypothetical conversation about starting the charter fishing business, there were two recommendations for questions that I focused on. So, you can see me navigating the sidebar here. And the first was, how far along was Bob in the process to purchase a boat? So I asked about whether he had talked about any specific terms with the seller of the boat. He said he wasn't that far along, but he would follow up when he had that information. The second question you can see here is about the intern. So I asked, what tasks do you plan on giving the intern in order to further dive into that employment issue that was raised? Notice there's also functionality to ignore a question. So at the beginning of the conversation, when we were just getting started, there were two questions that were flagged about recording audio and analyzing audio. I simply just removed those with that ignore function in order to narrow down what questions were really relevant to the conversation. And what's the value of these questions? So, the value of having these questions, again, is pulling out all the critical details and minimizing the follow up conversations, those follow up emails that you have to have with your client after the conversation. Those can really detract from the client experience. And so, the plan here is really to draw out all of those details so you don't have to bother your client after the conversation. The next feature that I'll highlight is the relevant legal content in the moment. So, as we highlighted before, a handful of legal issues were flagged during our conversation. If you want a little bit more detail in the moment, you can tap into the research function. So, the research function returns a small curated summary of the legal issue that was raised. So in this case, the import issue has some detail about fees and forms and other documentation that Bob may have to comply with in order to bring a boat from Canada to the United States. There's also some sources cited. So if you wanted further detail in the moment, you could also go to the links in that section to get more detail. The second issue was about the labor and employment issue related to an unpaid intern. And similarly, you can tap into that research function, get a summary about how you could have an intern, the relevant tests that would be required in order to analyze the legality of that relationship, as well as the sources. So, what's the value of this? Having this information at your fingertips for an experienced attorney, maybe it's an area that's outside of your normal core practice. So, you can get this information very easily without turning your attention away from the conversation. If you're an associate, imagine the value that you can get from seeing in real time the issues explained to you while you're listening, perhaps to your partner talk to the client. Some of our users have looked at that function and said, this is a way to have training by automation. This is a way for associates to get feedback about potential legal issues and ask better questions after the call in a way that perhaps has been lost a little bit because we've gone to more hybrid and remote work arrangements.
And that research, just to be clear, is drawing from the publicly available internet legal resources on the publicly available internet, not private legal research services, right?
Correct. Yes. We are exploring ways, however, to integrate with some of those private resources. And so more to come on that as we work through our product roadmap. All right. Previously, you saw the issue and question prompts in a sidebar in the meeting window. Another way to view that same information is through our dashboard. So when you're in a meeting and Querious joins it, there's a live meeting tab. You'll see the active meeting tab up here. So the benefit of this is that you just have a little bit more real estate in order to view those issue, question, and content prompts. However, the information is the same no matter where you're viewing it from.
That's all saved?
So this information will be summarized. I'll show you that in a few minutes in a summary email and detailed set of notes. So yes, you will be able to view this information after the meeting. In this section, I will highlight the summary email that attorneys receive after the conversation. So as you'll see here, there's a high-level summary of the conversation that we had about Bob starting a fishing charter business called Squid Pro Quo. In addition to the summary above, you will also see the key legal issues that were flagged, as well as the administrative tasks. So the follow-up items here involve tracking down the import requirements, looking into the trademark of the name of the company, as well as aligning some of the legal requirements related to the unpaid internship. And the value of this is that you can easily communicate and in a timely way get back to your client and say, here's the issues that I'll be working on, and if you have any questions, please follow up or revise something that's in the email. You can also use this email to communicate with your colleagues and say maybe your labor and employment colleague is specializing in this area and you need their help on issue number 2. So you can easily forward this to them without having to have a separate conversation.
And you integrate with Outlook and Gmail, is that right?
That's right. Yes. So the way that our product connects to the attorney's tech stack is through the calendar. So we integrate with Microsoft Outlook and Google Calendar, and then the corresponding email service with both of those tools. Finally, I'd like to highlight the detailed notes that are produced from the conversation. So here you can see the attorney is given a high-level summary similar to the email, but then there's more detailed insights in the body of this document here. All of this is visible from the dashboard, and you can revise it as well to make sure that it's perfectly tailored to how you want the notes to be captured from the conversation. You'll see that there's also the short list of legal issues as well as the administrative tasks. And if you'd like to review any of the questions that were flagged during the conversation, you can look at that too. Notably, you can export this document to your normal document management system. It's a simple download, and we save all of this information in the dashboard for 7 days. So you just pull it down to your system when you have a chance, and that will remain your files. And then after that, we do not keep a record of this. So that's another feature of how the architecture of this tool is built. We don't keep your client information past a certain retention period. And then the last thing to highlight here, which attorneys in private practice love, is an automatically drafted billing entry based on the conversation, as well as the timestamp associated with that, the duration. So imagine at the end of the day or the end of the week, you can simply click through all of your completed meeting summaries and just have a recap of the time you spent talking with clients.
That's great. It's a really unique and appears to be a really practical application in terms of what's out there on the legal tech landscape. I haven't ever seen anything quite like this. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anything else you'd like to show us today, or is that it?
I think that's it. Yes, I think I just want to emphasize one more time that attorneys actually have the option to try this tool for free. You can try it in 10 meetings for free by simply going to our landing page and get started for free. So please do go to the landing page, querious.ai, and give it a try. We love feedback. We take it very seriously, and that feedback is incorporated into our product roadmap. So looking forward to having your viewers try it and getting to know you all better.
Well, Hilary, thanks so much for this demonstration. And that's it for this episode of How It Works. You can find the full series at directory.lawnext.com under the Resources tab, or on YouTube. Just search How It Works there. Thanks for joining us today. This is Bob Ambrogi.